Dr. Seuss book when I was young seems merely to be a rhyme of questionable quality. I mean, seriously? You're just rhyming fish with fish. But behind its apparent innocuousness is another story. Many Seuss titles have stirred up controversy over the years, such as Hop on Pop, banned for promoting violence, or If I Ran the Zoo, banned for racially charged language. Being read at such an important time in the development of their readers, picture books gain an immense amount of influence over the children who are reading them. To explore the power hidden between the lines of picture books, today we'll read a story in 3 parts. First, we'll turn back to the Soviets' use of propaganda in picture books, then we'll flip ahead towards the powerful sociological forces surrounding them, and finally, we'll discover the unexpected educational strength of postmodern picture books. Let's go back to the early years of the Soviet Union. You're 8 years old and you're handed a book to read. It says The Bolshevik Hedgehog on its cover, and it has these nice animals playing around. Seems like a good read. You start to get into it and you find out that the animals on the cover were banned from having fun by the evil Zog Boy. The protagonist, a worker hedgehog, then leads the forest animals to overthrow the Zog Boy, chanting, "Eternal freedom to the feral people." Sounds a bit familiar, doesn't it? While the Bolshevik hedgehog is a bit blunt with it, most picture books have some sort of purpose. Take the classic Grimm's fairy tales, which intended to teach morals through their stories. According to Andrea Amel, curator of the Cotton Children's Library at Princeton University, the Soviets were keenly aware of the need to leap ahead as quickly as possible, and at the same time create a new breed of men. To achieve this, the Soviets put out a new call for picture books, with posters such as this one with Lenin saying, "Give a new children's book. Work, battle, technology, nature, the new reality of childhood." The Soviets' use of propaganda in picture books shows that they can do much more than just teach good behavior. Their ability to shape young children's minds is strong enough to influence the plans of global leaders. The new Soviet picture books were key to their literacy campaign, and fantasy books were seen as a threat to the revolution due to their association with the bourgeoisie. As a result, the tremendous artistic firepower that could be captured in the Soviet Union of the 1920s made the hard, unglamorous work of agriculture or electrification seem heroic and patriotic, according to them. While the Soviets' use of propaganda in picture books shows that they can be used to intentionally shape young minds, we also find that societies influence the way their children think through a form of unintentional propaganda in picture books. Picture books can create a sort of storm of powerful sociological forces. There are 2 key factors here. First, picture books are read at a time when their readers are just developing the lenses through which they see the world around them and themselves. And second, pictures are much more prescribed than the written word because they give readers less room to imagine situations and characters themselves. As a result, the forces that shape the content of picture books have an immense influence on the way that young children see the world around them. Sociologists really began to start studying this with a 1972 study by UC Davis professor Lenore Weitzman and her colleagues, which found that picture books of her era underrepresented women. Male humans were 11 times more likely to be represented in a photo from the Caldecott Award-winning books from the 60s and 70s that they analyzed. The study also found that picture books were furthering gender roles and stereotypes. Male characters were portrayed as leaders, while females were portrayed as followers, among other stereotypes. In discussion of the impact of these forces, Weitzman argues that through the world of picture books, young girls are never taught that they can find fulfillment outside of the home or through intellectual pursuits, and that young girls are taught to have low aspirations because so few opportunities are portrayed as available to them. Now, that study was published nearly 50 years ago. Have we seen anything change since then? Well, in 2007, Robert Clark revisited the questions asked by Weitzman with some very interesting results. The trend in stereotyping was what one might perhaps expect. A consistent linear representation perhaps diverges more from our expectations. Representation increased into the 80s and 90s, but decreased into the early 2000s. This trend raises a very interesting question. If the content of picture books are shaping the way that our young children see the world around them, then what's shaping the content of the picture books? Clark focuses on societal forces themselves in his analysis, noting that the rise and decline of representation correlates with the rise and fall of the third-wave feminist movement. Weitzman also looks to the influence of societal forces, finding that picture books with female authors tended to have more female characters. That said, the individual also has a role, as researcher An Young-Yu Lee found. Parents, teachers, and librarians have an immense role in providing their students with culturally authentic picture books. So, if picture books can cause our young children to be instilled with Soviet propaganda or gender goals, should we just throw them all away? Well, no, of course not. And a key reason for this is that picture books can actually teach the critical thinking skills required to get past these issues. And as it turns out, one subgenre of picture book is incredibly effective at doing so: postmodernism. Now, when you and I think about postmodernism, we might think that to being annoyed or frustrated by postmodern techniques like nonlinear narrative or indeterminacy. But young children see things very differently. When art educator Pamela Hellman began reading to her young children, she found that some of the picture books were very different from the ones that she read when she was growing up. She didn't really like them, but her kids loved the shifting viewpoint, self-reference, and other postmodern techniques. To explore why young children find postmodern picture books so interesting and engaging, Cheryl Edge Partington interviewed a group of students as they read through a book that distorted and disrupted time, was indeterminate, and used other postmodern techniques. The kids' first reaction to the book was that it was weird, but as they began to read through it, they quickly became interested and engaged with the challenges created by the postmodern techniques and the curiosity that they stimulated. The problem is, though, that educators and parents don't share the young children's enthusiasm for postmodern picture books. Take David Maclay's 1991 Caldecott Award-winning Black and White. Maclay describes the subject of the book as the book, and each page has 4 different narratives. When asked if they were willing to teach black and white in their classrooms, most educators were hesitant because they thought it would be too hard. But Edge Partington finds that the exact opposite is true. The educational strength of postmodern picture books comes from how challenging they can be. Nonlinearity prepares readers for naturally nonlinear texts, such as websites or nonfiction, and indeterminacy forces readers to co-create with authors, encouraging or moreover demanding readers to engage in critical thinking. Edge Partington leaves educators with an important message, stressing that as the face of reading changes with the influx of new digital and interactive media, it's important as educators that we teach our kids the strategies required to access these new and challenging texts. So, as we close, behind the cover of a picture book is more than you or I might initially think there is. It encodes thousands of possibilities to be arranged into different narratives, each with a different impact on its readers. From this, picture books show us the immense power of the pen, due to their ability to shape the minds of young readers who are just developing the lenses through which they see the world around them and themselves. As a result, picture books show up in history, in sociology, and at the intersection of education and literary arts. So, as we close the back cover on our exploration into this important genre, we find that behind even the simplest of fishy rhymes are deeply complex and influential stories.